there, it's Janet Johnson. Welcome to Business Growth Time. I'm here with, of course, my co-host Terry Bean, and I am fortunate to have my good friend and colleague JoAnne Funch with us today too. So we're going to get right into talking about LinkedIn profiles is what we want to talk about today, and JoAnne is definitely the authority on that. But first, I want to introduce her, but I have to have Terry first come up with his E-word because he probably isn't prepared for this. But, you know, Terry on the fly is more fun than Terry not on the fly. So let's see, what's your E-word today?
So the E-word today is going to be enticing, because I think having the right LinkedIn profile will entice your audience to you. For those who don't know, this is Janet E. Johnson, and every week we have to come up with a new E-word. So I'm running out of dictionary, but that's a good one, and that'll work.
I feel like that one was maybe used before, but that's okay. That's okay.
Prove it, Janet E. Johnson. Prove it.
I need to go back through all the podcasts and make an E-list. There you go.
That's right.
No, my VA will do that. All right, well, let's get started with JoAnne. And JoAnne and I are actually accountability partners. So we talk every single week, too.
Yep.
So we help each other spin ideas off our business. I feel like Terry's kind of one of those, too. We don't have a weekly call, but we definitely spin ideas off of each other. And it's always good if you're an entrepreneur or small business to find somebody like that to help A, hold you accountable, B, get ideas from. So I think it's been great.
It's been super helpful for us to run ideas by each other.
Yeah, it definitely is. So we maybe need to do a whole call about that.
Yeah.
Accountability partners, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, just to interject on that, I had somebody just this week ask me about that. Asked me if I had an accountability partner, and because she felt like she really needed that in her life and her business. So I think it's a relevant topic.
I do too. And Terry, what's your spin on it?
So when I do the Face of Success presentation, in the execution part, it's always the part of the accountability partner, right? We used to do this thing called...
Oh, Terry just muted himself. Here, unmute.
Sorry, wait, I have a call coming in. What are the 6 tasks you're going to do this day, right? And share that with somebody just to make sure that you stay on track of what you actually need to do. Everybody's to-do list is way too long anyway. So shrink that focus, make sure that you're working on the highest and best use for your time, and then share it to have somebody else know that you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can be really easy on ourselves at times with our business. Like if it's something that you don't have to do, it's like, oh, I'll push that one off, you know. Well, like the book. I'm not even bringing that up. But anyway, so the book is that's my curse. But
it's like updating your LinkedIn profile.
Exactly.
Right? People...
It's something you don't have to do, but yeah, exactly. So I just want to introduce JoAnne properly, and then I'm going to kind of get into her story and let her tell it. But she's actually a marketing consultant, and she has been doing the social media online marketing world since '96. She beats me by 2 years. So you've been doing it even longer than I have, and we've been around a while. She especially loves to teach and empower businesses to take control of their social and digital footprint by establishing their voice and implementing strategies. She was an early adopter of LinkedIn, and as I know Terry was too, and has been teaching others how to use it effectively to meet their professional objectives. She has been a LinkedIn workshop trainer for the University of Minnesota Business and Economic Development Department, and a guest presenter and speaker for organizations and conferences locally and nationally. She works with both private companies and individuals on LinkedIn profile development, corporate training, social selling, and digital marketing strategies, and stays on the forefront of the ever-changing digital marketing landscape to ensure her clients stand out in a noisy, yes it is, online world. So JoAnne, how'd you get started in the first place with this business?
Well, I actually, when I started my business in '96, my marketing business, I was living in Southern California. And I relocated back to the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul back in mid-07. And although I was born and raised here, I didn't know anybody professionally. I didn't know what was happening in the business world. And so I turned to LinkedIn to reach out to people. And if we can all remember, even back to '07, social media was relatively new then.
Yes.
But I had really entrenched myself and my business in learning. Remember back then they called it internet marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And anyway, so I looked to LinkedIn, and there weren't that many people using LinkedIn. So those people who were serious about meeting other professionals. And that was really how I got started. And it was very successful for me, to the point where some of my colleagues that I was on this journey with kept saying, why do you not teach other people to do this? And I kind of went, yeah, why not? Yeah. So back then, rather than deciding to be the jack of all trades, I decided to be the master of one, and that one was LinkedIn.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And then mine was the focus was Facebook in about the same time. So very, very interesting. And yeah, and Terry's been on LinkedIn. I mean, I was on LinkedIn, but not using it the proper way. And we've talked about that. And I think a lot of people are more like me, where they kind of were on there, but then they didn't really do much with it, or they didn't know what to do, that kind of thing. So I think it's real important.
And, I just have to say, based on that comment, it's so fascinating that in 2019, the same questions come up all the time. I don't know what to do. Terry?
I have barely changed the presentation I do on LinkedIn that I started doing in 2005, right? I update it to the extent that the tool updates it. Yeah. But the content and the main idea in the structure of the training or the coaching, it's the same stuff. And people still have the same issues. You're absolutely right.
I went into the wrong deal because Facebook changes every day of my life. So
well, as he said, the platform changes, but the concept of connecting with professionals hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The why and the what are the same. The how is different, but the why and the what are the same.
Yeah. But I think the why, I find that people don't get it still. And the reason they don't do it is because they don't understand the why.
Mm-hmm. What is the why?
So
they think it's a resume database, and it's just not. It's a connection tool.
Right. And so I always start out my presentations with the why. And so in terms of our conversation today about just LinkedIn profiles, the reasons that I think it is that, number one, you can attract leads and clients organically if you have an updated profile. You can enhance your reputation. It's an E word, by the way, enhance.
She's onto it.
You build your credibility and your authority. You absolutely can establish trust faster, I think. You can facilitate relationships with those decision makers because your profile is really clear. And you can stand out in those first impressions, right? Matter the most. So those are my whys, why you should be updating your profile, or why this awesome profile matters. Those are the reasons it matters.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I do believe people will go, especially if they're looking to hire somebody. I mean, they're going to, if it's a one-man show type, it depends on the size of the company, but they'll either be going to their LinkedIn profiles, one of the main places they're going to go, or maybe a Facebook page or something like that. But obviously the website. But I do really, it is an online resume. Really, it really is. Even if you don't have if you're not job hunting, it doesn't matter. It's business to business. So let's talk about the whole profile and breaking it down, and just giving some maybe top tips that you have that people really, really have to take action on. And I'm listening because I know I'm a bad one.
Well, first of all, I just want to preface this by, I think the last statistic I heard is we like have 7 seconds, probably less now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go with 7 seconds to impress somebody. So if that means that starts out with your headline, your picture, and I think your cover image.
Mm-hmm.
And those 3 things really are key to attracting people. Am I going to read more into the profile from there?
Okay. Makes sense.
Right. So
absolutely. And those things all show up, they show up above the fold, right? So when you're doing a search, those, not the cover photo, but the image and the headline are the things that people are going to see. So those are totally first impression things. Very important.
Absolutely. So your headline, you want to really attract the viewer's attention with that title. And so I always suggest that you have 1 or 2 keywords in your title, but I like to follow that with some compelling statement. And that compelling statement could be results you produce or what sets you apart. And I talk to a lot of groups, and so if you're in a really competitive industry, let's just say realtors, right? To have your name and followed by the word realtor means nothing. It doesn't set you apart from anybody. It doesn't tell people, so you're a realtor, so what? So even if you had your keywords, you want to follow that even with an area you serve or a niche that you serve. You have to let people know more than that. And that profile picture, it seems like we shouldn't even talk about this anymore because I feel like haven't we talked about pictures enough? And yet, I see pictures I had to talk to a guy yesterday and he said to me, I know it's a terrible picture. I took it with my cell phone standing in my office. And I said, okay, so what are you going to do about that? So it is important to at least have a picture that is current, that represents how you show up professionally.
Yeah, I agree.
And thirdly, I just want to say, not utilizing that big header banner at the top is such a waste of valuable real estate. And if you think of yourself as a brand, you want to make sure that that header image is utilized to really brand yourself.
I want to add to that because I do agree with you. I love having that, that's a big place. It's an advertisement basically. But the bottom line is, I think make sure that you check, because I didn't even realize this till later. It looks completely different on mobile versus desktop.
It does.
So
Correct.
It's just something that make sure that you look at both, because my words are cutting off on my mobile one.
Correct.
You can pull it down and see it, but because it's like a pull down thing, so it's kind of strange where you could pull your profile down, but it's in the center on the mobile and it's on the side. So if you have words on it, just make sure that you double check. Mm-hmm.
That's a very good tip. I know I rewrite a lot of profiles for people, and I always provide that image for them, and I always check to see how it shows up on mobile and on desktop.
Yeah.
And the last thing I just want to throw in is I think the number one mistake people make on this top part of their profile is in their headline. So many business owners put their name and then in their headline they put owner, which is such a waste of those 120 characters, because it doesn't matter that you're the owner, right? Or a lot of people
think of what do I have on mine?
So in those 120 characters, you really want to use that space in the way I mentioned earlier, rather than taking that space up by putting owner, because in your experience section below that, you can put owner or president or whatever that title is. So I just think that's a huge mistake that most small business owners make. I'm not talking about corporate, but more
Sure.
small business owners.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's more what you do for others, keywords, that kind of thing, and then niching it down to specifics of what you do.
Yes.
Just all in that headline but it's not that many words that you can put in.
It's only 120 characters when you edit it on desktop, but believe it or not, if you edit your title on mobile, they actually, this is LinkedIn, right, Terry? They're so weird. If you edit it on mobile, you actually have more characters, but you want to keep in mind that, you know, I think it's good to stay within that parameter because you don't know how people are viewing your profile.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the key, right? It's not all you can put in. It's just enough to gain their attention so they actually want to read more. We have a tendency to throw the kitchen sink in, and that's unnecessary. Plus, like what JoAnne was saying, if you put too much in, it cuts off. They don't see all of it anyway. So yeah, be mindful of what it says. I think people can put owner in, but the moment you put owner or CEO, people are going to be searching for those words, and you're going to get solicited a lot more than if you talk about what problem you solve.
Exactly. Agreed.
So mine says, let's do a test. Social media, marketing agency, and community. I could get rid of that part. Full service, plus coach, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, video marketing. A lot of keywords. Exactly what I do.
Yeah, it's not.
It could use a little help, yeah, but it's what I do, you know. But it could be more.
Community. I don't think you need that word at all.
I don't either. Yep, that would be the part I'd take out. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
I would drop the social media agency too, right? Because the rest of it implies that. But social media is a key word in and of itself, so I could see it too.
That's why I put it in there. Yeah, that's exactly why I put it in there. Yep.
And you also have to think, I mean, I don't want to really go down the keyword rabbit hole, but you know, you have to think about how are people searching. So social media for you is key, no pun intended, that they probably would search to find you.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And well, yeah, in Facebook ads, that kind of thing. So it's just, I think people do need to figure out, what their main key terms are and then go with that. Yep. Okay. So we've got the headline, we have the profile fixed, we have the cover image. Then what's next? So
the other thing I want to point out that really is on that top section again, to the right of your name on the right-hand side, it says contact information, or I think it says contact info. You want to make sure that you open that up and you actually put your contact info in there, because so many people, I'll tell you, we don't think about it ourselves, but when people are coming to your profile, if they can't find an email or a phone number, don't think that they're automatically going to message you on LinkedIn. They, believe it or not, they might want to pick up the phone. And so having that contact info with your website, your phone, and your address is huge. So that would be on the top part of that. And then the next most important section is your summary. So if you have managed to get people interested enough to scroll down to learn more, the first thing they come to is the summary. And if you notice, if even on desktop and on mobile, when you're looking at that top section, it pulls the first 2 to 3 lines of your summary section. So I read your headline, I read your title, I see the first 3 words of that summary, or first 3 lines. What you say there is hugely important, whether or not, again, they're going to click the see more button. So you want to make sure that those first 3 sentences are compelling, and in terms of what you want people to know more about you. So the summary section in general, you have 2,000 characters. I would use them all personally. I think you want to make sure that you're telling your career story versus making it sound like a resume. So this is why it's so much more than a resume, because you get to really tell people more about you. You know, who are you? What do you stand for? What's been your career path? Tell us something interesting. When I work with people on their profiles, I always ask them things like, what do you do better than anyone else? Tell me something fun about you. Tell me a fun fact. Things like that other people are interested in. So I think the summary should be a compilation of, you know, who I am, who I serve, what I do, but also, you know, what's my story?
Yeah, good idea.
People have interesting lives, and sometimes I think on LinkedIn we're still that stuffy,
stiff.
Yeah,
totally.
No, I might say things about me that are more interesting on Facebook, but I'm not on LinkedIn, and I think that's kind of a mistake, because if you believe people do business with people, you want to make sure that you're someone that people would relate to, right? What do you value? What's important to you? Make all that part of your story.
So I would tell people that the summary is your why, right? Don't bother putting your current job description in, because as you'll talk about in a minute, that's what your experience is. But you want to get people to read that summary and understand why they should care about you. And then you can talk about the what you do in the next section.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of two minds about that. And I'll tell you why. I agree with you in theory, Terry, but because people are so into that, I'm going to look at you for 7 seconds. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the what I do in both your summary and in your experience, because people may not scroll all the way down. And so I like to kind of combine both. In the experience section, I go into way more detail. In the summary, I sort of give people a glimpse or a look into what I'm doing now and how does that relate to my career story. So for me, as an example, in my summary, I talk about that I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and I wove that into my story of what I do.
Makes sense.
Then if you scroll down, I expand on that there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't articulate that clearly. It's the why you do what you do, right? So you have to say what you do in that part, but it's really more about the why you do it, as opposed to the I exceeded quota 18 times in a row, and I managed 27 people. So but I appreciate the distinction. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
very good. So that's where you could also connect with somebody. Like if you say, I love rollerblading, or I love, and talk about your hobbies, then potentially somebody goes, oh, I love rollerblading too. Yeah. So then they build that connection and feel closer to you. So is that kind of part of it too in that area?
Totally.
That's spot to do it? Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can always tell when people haven't read my profile, because when people have, they mention things that I have written in my profile, versus you can tell when people are sort of spamming you, or I don't know why they want to connect half the time, because they never mention anything in the profile. And yet that's such a way to open a conversation.
True. Good point. Yeah. It doesn't look as spammy with those emails. Yep. Or the
other thing I would say about the summary, again, at the bottom of the summary, I would have a call to action. And that call to action, I would include contact information again. So don't think you're overdoing it, because people jump around again, right? Section by section. So make sure that your call to and what do you want them to do? What is the call to action? You want them to call you or email you or go to your website, or what do you want them to do?
Would this be a place that you could put a lead magnet too for list building?
You could. They're not hyperlinked, but you certainly could.
Okay.
I know sometimes it is hyperlinked in the contact section. So if you did want to put a lead magnet, putting that URL in the contact section on your website would be a good place for that.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
I would also add multimedia to your summary and other sections of your profile. Anything that, multimedia is a video, a PDF, a Word doc, anything that people could learn more about you, and it sort of amplifies what you're telling them within the summary section. Same thing would hold true under experience. You'd want to add some multimedia. So, for example, if you're a speaker, you'd want to put a speaker reel as an example, right? So people could click right on it in your profile.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So then the next section, do you want me to move on?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So then you're going to come into your experience sections. So that's what do you do? What's your current position? And if many entrepreneurs have multiple things that they do, this is very common in today's world. You want to make sure how you list them under experience is really clear. I personally recommend if you do real different things. So for example, I have a business, I do marketing consulting and strategy, and I have that listed as a separate experience from my LinkedIn business. So you have the ability to do that within your experience section. The other thing I want to bring up, in case there are folks our age or older, I think ageism is a real thing in today's world. I wouldn't go back more than 25 years in terms of your past experiences unless it really adds credibility to what you're doing now. I just wouldn't go back that far. I don't think it's necessary, again, unless it's really key to who you are.
So the job at Pizza Hut shouldn't put on there.
1979. Yeah, that's a tough one. And it is very real. That's why you see human resource professionals turn off they have the ability to turn the settings so they can't see who's viewed their profile. And they also have the ability to turn off the photo, right? So they have to look at your profile without you knowing they're looking necessarily, and without being able to see pictures of you. So it decreases that ageism. That piece is really important if you're a job seeker. If you're someone that's been in an industry for 40 years, I think it might be okay to leave that you're in there for 40 years, unless you're a digital marketing dinosaur, and then maybe it doesn't look as good, right? People want the young hipsters. So it's interesting.
Plus and minuses here.
We're just reading the quote from Ronald Reagan. Remember, Ronald Reagan and Walter Mondale were debating in 1984 for the presidency, and somebody brought up how old Ronald was going to be and whether or not age was going to be an issue in that election. And Ronald Reagan quipped back. He said, "I'm not going to hold my opponent's youth and inexperience against him." Such a great line.
I remember that. Oh my God, I remember that. That was a great line. But, in today's world, it is a deal that I think people have to be aware of. And so that kind of segues into the education. Now you can actually remove the years of when you went to college. You can list the university, for example, but you can remove the years. And that's not a bad idea. I would maybe highlight, if you've taken other courses that are relevant to what you're doing, you can list that in a separate section under courses and certifications, and that may be way more relevant than, if you went to college 30 or 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The reason to put it in is because oftentimes if you're listing your alma mater, that is a point of opening a conversation with somebody else who might share your same alma mater, but might think about moving the years.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and the algorithm it's a great way for you to grow your network, right? So LinkedIn shows you people that you have things in common with. Maybe you worked at the same company, or maybe you went to the same university. So their recommendation engine for people to connect with comes from that. So that's why you want to add those past jobs, and why you want to make sure that where you went to school is there.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right. Well, we got about 5 more minutes or so. We want to kind of try to wrap it up. So let's continue going on, because I think that was a really good point. Because like you said, certifications, honestly, I'm an elementary education major. What does that really have to do with today's world? But yeah, you want where you went to college, but maybe some updated certifications or anything that you've done is even more important. I like that point.
Yeah, I can just quickly go over the balance, because volunteer. If you volunteer somewhere, it's an optional section. I would add it because it says a lot about your character. So think about that. Skills and endorsements. A lot of people say, well, big deal. Why does it matter? Well, number one, it matters because LinkedIn has it in there, and anything that they have, they track. So it matters in terms of, keywords. So you want to make sure that they're up to date. You can list 50. I would list them. I would make sure that that is complete. The other section that I think is key is recommendations. And in today's world, it's, as you know, Janet, it's all about social proof, right? And we make decisions based on the opinions of other people. So that's the world we live in, where social proof matters. So a recommendation really shows that someone trusts us, right? And we all buy something on Amazon, right? And we read the reviews and we buy something based on that. This is no different. In fact, I think this is so important that I suggest people make sure that their recommendations are current every year. You look relevant, you look like you're still out there doing something, and this is what people say about me. So I think recommendations are important.
Now that brings in the question of endorsements.
Yeah, I think endorsements have to do more with the algorithm and some of that's happening in terms of background stuff. But I can't tell you one person in business who looks at endorsements versus recommendations. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's, it's really about online reputation. I think you need to think about, am I managing my online reputation? How am I showing up? I like to, we all are fans of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says, no matter what you do, your job is to tell your story. And I think LinkedIn is the perfect place to do that in your profile.
Cool. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So people have a lot of homework if they haven't updated their profile. It's not like where on Instagram you get this little bit and you're done. You know what I mean? It's a giant, but there's a lot of moving parts. So I do agree it needs to be probably updated minimally, like quarterly, monthly? What do you suggest?
Well, I think quarterly, yes. I think you have to think of LinkedIn as a living document. I mean, sometimes I'll just change one word in my profile because I thought of something that, I really need to add that to my profile, and I'll change one word. But I am always cognizant about my profile. And so I think that people, think of it as a living document and, you know, keep it relevant, because that's the other thing in this world, right? I mean, you have to be relevant. You have to be current. Everything's changing so fast, right? It's not one and done anymore.
JoAnne, how long do you suggest it takes for people to actually fill out their profile properly? What's the amount of time they should allot?
Well, I think a couple hours, honestly. I rewrite a lot of people's profiles, and it takes me on average, I've done this for years and years, on average I spend 3 hours per profile. But you know, I go through every little thing, and I really take time to tell the right story. So,
well, I think if somebody hasn't done all this work that you're talking about, I mean, I could see it taking at least a couple of hours. Yeah.
And you don't have to do it all at once, right? You don't have to allot that time and block it out. But you do need to expect that over time, you're going to invest that kind of time into it. She's absolutely right. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I can see that. Well, I guess I better book some time. All right. So tell us. Exactly. Tell us what's the best way. You probably offer something for profiles, and then the best way to reach out to you.
Well, just go to my website, which is linkedinforbusiness.net. You can find I have a great blog. I have a lot of really good articles. You could learn a lot if you read my blog. If you subscribe to my newsletter, I'm really focused on giving tips every single week. So everything is there.
Yep, cool. And a YouTube channel with a lot of videos on it too.
I am doing a lot of video this year.
Yes,
so you can find my YouTube channel at LinkedIn for Business also.
Cool, awesome. All right, any last tip? Like, just let's give one action step. Like, if they take action today, what should they spend 15 minutes on? Like,
I would spend the time on updating your title and your headline. Is it interesting? Along with that cover image, will people want to read more and learn more about me?
Okay, cool, awesome. Any last words, Terry? This was great.
Yeah, you know what? I do have one, and this is the one challenge that I hear about from LinkedIn isn't a security issue, it's a creeper issue. So if you're an attractive female, I would put an office phone as opposed to a mobile phone. I would put a work email as opposed to a personal email. And I dislike having to say this, but fellas, we need to do better. And women, you need to be mindful that evidently fellas need to do better. So I think that's an important tip.
Yeah,
it is a very important. I agree. Instagram's worse, but at this point for me, but bottom line is they're both, and I never put my phone number, my personal phone number out there. So I think that's a great tip to mention. But yeah, women do have to be a little more careful than the guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Terry, because as a matter of fact, this week I had somebody who wanted to know if I was single and asked me more than I was kind of shocked. So
it's like, stop doing it.
And LinkedIn is the last place you think of for a dating service. But I guess if you're a guy, you could get some quality women there, I guess. But I mean, weird. Anyway.
It's nuts, man.
I know. That's great.
So.
Yep. Thanks for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks, JoAnne. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. This was really good stuff. So you guys take action and fix that profile. Thanks a lot.
All right.